Hey everyone, I've got a fun layout today using the March Kitaholic Kits. So I've got all those printable flowers that I've fussy cut, and then some of them I've added some leaves to them and others I've just left without leaves. And then I've just got this little collection of photos. So I've got three tiny small ones and then maybe it's like 2.5 by 2.5 square. Now I thought it'd be cool to maybe put them together in a comic. What is it called? A strip of photos. But instead, I remembered that we had this printable or this exclusive die cut. So I'm going to tidy them up, cut it in so it could fit onto this little row of photos. What's that called? Film strip, I guess. A photo strip. And it's a little bit bigger, which means it's really cool because then it has a lot of white space. And because I'm using an 8.5 by 11 black piece of cardstock, it needs that little bit of white in between the photos. Looks really nice. So it's also printed it on acetate, so I figured I would layer them up. That then gives brightness to the colour, but also means the photos can be underneath the plastic, and it just gives that different look to it all together like that. So just having a fiddle with it. I've cut them all out to make sure they've all got a nice little border and they all fit where they need to fit. And then I've pulled this little title, the word C, off those phrase stickers that we got in the kit. So just roughly having a look to see how it looks with flowers everywhere. Obviously I'm not going to go and glue them like this, but it's just a rough estimate of what it could look like. And this is based on so I've sort of pretty much scrap lifted myself in the same month. So there's another layout, the summer fun one, where I've got the cut file title and then I've got flowers all over. They're the different type of flowers that we got in the printable. But I thought it was really fun and I wanted to recreate it, and I remembered that these distress oxides, and these are the reinkers but also the ink pads, goes over black. Not like other ink where you can't see it. So just putting some colour onto the acrylic block, adding some water and just using like the packaging technique, pretty much just using acrylic block obviously rather than packaging. And you can see it lightens up a lot. So I decided to not water it down and added the colour this way. Added a little bit of water just to get it going, but I go in with a few different layers, and then I realize if it's better, the color tone sits nicer without any water. So you can see here, just putting it on. I keep adding water to this but in the end I really get the message and just use no water when I'm mixing the color around. I also then use the blue and the orange color that we also got in the mixed media kit, and I add lots of colour to the background. So obviously with the size of the photos, the fact that there's multiple photos, and because I want to put a whole pile of flowers on the layout, it's obviously going to cover up a whole pile of this mixed media. So I don't have to worry about how it all looks as such, mostly in the middle. It's just the outer edges that I want to make look random rather than straight edge of the acrylic block. So on we go, just having some fun with the colour. So who has been creating their little backside off? Who's in isolation and has got time to do it, or who's in isolation and hasn't got time but really wants to, and who's like myself who is still working and doesn't really have time other than the weekend when I'm isolating. And because I really do have the weekend to create, but just got to make sure I motivate myself every weekend rather than just sitting there and watching TV mindlessly. My children are away at their dad's house so that they can not be out in the community and isolate themselves, and that way then there's less people out in the community and they're not at risk themselves. So they're there while I'm working, and I'm just going to get groceries and dropping it at their mailbox and things like that. So it's things we've got to do. I'm sure everyone's got some little well, not even little, could be big sacrifice that is going on because of all this mayhem in the world. Who would have thought that it was going to happen just like this? Anyway, so I've added a little bit of water to some acrylic paint, not very much at all, and I'm just flicking that on top just to add a little bit of point of difference and having those ink splatters. It just makes it pop a lot because the colour is on black. But you can see the colours worked really nicely on top of that black once I realised to stop adding water to the packaging. So back on, just making sure roughly with the flowers again. And then you can see that I'm liking the way it is looking, and I just want to make sure that I have it in the right spot so that there's room for the flowers down the bottom. So on with some little dots of colour, sort of like doing ink splatters, but I'm using the bottle to make the dots just so I can make sure that I can see them and that they don't go all over everywhere. So just gluing down. I'm going to staple this acetate piece together where I know the photo is going to layer up. And that way you won't see the staple. Sometimes I'm happy to see staples, but this one I am not going for that look, so I made sure I could cover up that staple. I'm just going to glue down or double side tape down the photos so that I can get stuck on gluing and piecing all these flowers and then finishing it off. But first I'm going to make sure my title fits in with the layout, and by doing this it makes it link more than what the holographic thickers were. So I'm just using my paint pen to make the word change colour to black. You can really do anything. They are really shiny, those thickers, and still I was able to use my paint pen over them. It's really fun. I've been doing that a lot as well. I mentioned in a video recently that I've done a lot of mixed media, and I do a lot of mixed media, but I seem to have done it, exclusively, really. But one of the other techniques that I'm really loving at the moment is using my paint pens. And so whether it's to add some detail to the background, to change the colour of thickers, or to change the colour of wood veneer, these are things that I seem to be really going and really gravitating towards. So you can see I'm just using my wet glue, just sticking these flowers down, trying to keep some colours not right next to each other, but also having a good representation of colours around. You can see it's going to have a couple of these like they're floating down, and then they've all piled down below. So that's really fun, and I really could have just left it like this, really. I didn't need to add anything else, but in true Lauren style I do add more. So I'm going to just go back over with my paint pen because I moved it to put some flowers underneath. It just smudged a little on. There you go, and I'm just making sure those flowers are sticking down because of that type of glue. It's not really made for paper, so it curls up a little. I'm using these word stickers. At this stage I had quite a little bit left of them, and then by the end, if you watch my Killer Kit video, you'll see I only had one phrase sticker left, which is a pretty amazing effort because there was a lot of word stickers on there. But also I made 20 layouts, 2 Project Life and 2 tag albums, so it's not really surprising that I used so much of it. So I just wanted to see if there was anything else I wanted to add, and I found this big cluster of leaves, this big branch I guess of leaves, and I thought I'd put that there. It was a bit it just stood out a bit too much, so I put this black one here which still stands out, but I laid that flower underneath and it sort of made it fit in a bit better. And then I've got another leaf frond down the bottom, and then I'm going to add a couple of small ones in a few different spots just so that I can have that repeating sketchy leaf look throughout the layout. We're going to work on adding some of these resin flowers. We've got some really good colours that match in with the exclusive printable flowers. It's just really nice to put them on there. So what else has everyone been doing? Are we all going a bit stir crazy or stressed because you're busy at work? Hopefully time will fly and it won't be long before we're back to normal, or back to our new normal, I guess. So just gluing everything down, making sure all these resin flowers are in the right spot, and these die cut leaves are also glued down in the right spot and adhered to the page so that they don't fall apart. I'm just having to play the resin. Excuse me, yawned. The resin flowers just need a little minute or so to hold down to make sure the glue sticks to the paper and the back of the resin flowers. On they go, just in little clusters so that they're not scattered everywhere. Just means that they draw your eye to those little clusters, which is nice. And then I'm just checking what it's looking like by holding it up so I can see. And I'm just going to add any of these tiny little finishing touches where I've got these two little leaves, those die cuts. Just wanted to make sure I could get them on there because it's working really nicely. Anyway, that's the end of my layout. Hopefully you enjoy the close-ups and enjoyed the video today. Bye guys.